I got daddy issues. Now as a father, I had no other choice.
Becoming a father, becoming a mother does not mean that you have the answers or you
Process your own triggers. You then have a level of grace for others.
Welcome to Date Night with Coach. It's Dwayne and Ebony Green here, and this is our reboot of Date Night with Coach. And we started last year, and we're gonna keep rocking. We always, as always, life gonna throw obstacles at you, but we ain't gonna stop. And so today, we got a beautiful couple here. I'm so glad that you guys decided to come back and kick it with us again, and we're gonna probably invite you guys back again, and invite you guys back again, and whatever the case may be. But we're gonna start off with Jermaine, man, husband, father, HR professional, musician, minister, DJ, man of God, and a laid back, solid brother, man. And Sharika, wife, mother, dancer, minister. Woman, you minister when you doing your work, right?
You're right.
Right.
You're right.
A soldier, cancer survivor.
You know that's right.
And she is a poet.
Yeah, you know that's right.
The Joneses, man. Listen, we are so glad that you guys decided to kick it with us, man.
poet.
Pleasure.
Don't do that.
Please
don't do that.
She from all across that other side.
Yeah. The last time we shot, we started not really a series, but we started kind of dealing with the concept of relationship killers. And during that time, we talked a little bit about projection, right, as a relationship killer, and how that can kind of, create issues and damage and ultimately kill relationships. And so today, when we think about, before I jump into that, right, one of our guilty pleasures, Love and Hip Hop. We watched Love and Hip Hop. One of the old school movies that people like, Love and Basketball. Right? So today we're going to talk a little bit about a concept that definitely can be a relationship killer if it's not navigated appropriately and navigated successfully. Today we're going to talk about love and trauma. And so when we talk about trauma is essentially an emotional response to a distressing life event. And that can be a long-term emotional response. And so obviously when we talk about trauma, we talk about things that have transpired over the course of our lives, things that take us into our relationship time. It can definitely contribute to trauma. And so there are some things that cause traumatic experiences or trauma to impact relationships. And so I did some reading. My good old Psychology Today, I checked that out. They usually have a lot of good stuff. And so one of the impacts on relationships when people experience trauma is they're easily triggered throughout the course of their relationship, right? And again, if you guys got something while we do this intro, just jump on in. Also, there's usually, with the triggering, there's usually a fight, flight, or freeze response, which means that the fight response is they attack. The flight response is they avoid, and then the freeze response is they essentially shut down, they feel stuck, and they become paralyzed where they are. Shame, hard to take criticism, conflict, things like that. It becomes difficult. They become rigid and have negative beliefs about relationships. And then people tend to make poor choices in their partners, and then if they find themselves in a bad or toxic relationship, they feel stuck again and end up staying there. When we talk about trauma, one of the things that we consider is ACEs. So ACEs is it was a study that was done by the CDC and C.O.A.C.H Permanente back in the 90s to kind of gauge how childhood traumatic experiences impacted people's health. Physical health, essentially, and obviously it kind of evolved to mental health as well. And so how I essentially use the test is by, working with people. We go through, it's 10 questions. We go through those questions. And then after, a person may answer yes to each question, and we kind of talk about what those things are. And essentially, the more yeses you have, the expectation is the more impact the traumatic experiences would have on your life as an adult. And of course, it's even more complex when you talk about relationships, right? You talk about intermingling that with another person. And so what I want to do now, I'm going to read through the 10 questions on the ACEs. And what I would like us to do, it can be rhetorical or it can be literal, in terms of if you want to respond, great. If you don't, that's great as well. But at a minimum, I want each of us to just kind of think about those questions, think about what our answers are to them. And again, I'm gonna answer each and every one of them. So again, these questions are asked a simple yes or no, and again, we can kind of expound if there is a yes, and I'm fine with doing that for myself, obviously. So the first question is, did you feel that you didn't have enough to eat, had to wear dirty clothes, or had no one to protect or take care of you?
No.
And so I'll say yes. Not to all of them, but again, it's between the time you were born up until 18. There was a point in time where, I felt that I wasn't taken care of. You know what I mean? So that's the reality. Number 2, did you lose a parent through divorce, abandonment, death, or another reason?
Yes.
Yes. No. Okay. Number 3, did you live with anyone who was depressed, mentally ill, or attempted suicide?
No.
At some point, yes.
No. I'll say no as well. Did you live with anyone who had a problem with drinking, using drugs, including prescription drugs?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. No. Did your parents or adults in the home ever hit, punch, beat, or threaten to harm each other?
Hell yes.
Not in the home, no.
Yes. No.
Right.
You solid, boy.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
That's why you got that smile on your face.
More blessed than you realize, I'm trying to tell him.
Did you live with anyone who went to jail or prison?
Yes.
No.
Yes. No. Did a parent or adult in the home ever swear at you, insult you, or put you down?
Yes.
Not towards me.
Yes. Yes. Got one. And it's good that we can kind of laugh at this stuff, man. Because you want to be light about it for real. Right. Did a parent or adult in the home ever hit, beat, kick, or physically hurt you in any way?
No.
Yes. Yes. I say yes. Did you feel that no one in your family loved or thought you were special?
No.
No, I say no. Did you experience any unwanted sexual contact, such as fondling or anal vaginal intercourse or penetration? No.
No.
Yes.
All right. And so when we look at these ACEs and we look at the questions and we look at the answers, take a second and just think about how these experiences, one experience, can impact a person individually. But then how can it impact a person as they're trying to build a life and a relationship with someone?
That's what. So yeah, for me, my father went to prison when I was very young. I'm gonna say I may have been 6 or 7. And dealing with that growing, I never had an issue with like a father figure, so his absence didn't trigger me initially, because I always had someone there. Like I have an uncle who's like a father. He's always been present, and it wasn't until I was older, like high school, for senior inaugurations, different programs and stuff, where you see other parents coming, because at that point my mother wasn't in my life either. So that's when it started to hit me like, dang, I kind of wish my parents was here. Now as I got older, I understood, why he wasn't. But starting a relationship, not even with Jermaine first. I know my first relationship, which I made mention of before, it was an older guy, and I realized after getting out of the relationship, I was in it for the wrong reason. So because he was older, because he was like a protector, and cared for me well, it was like replacing my father. And then with Jermaine, it's like he had two fathers, right? And so his relationships with both of them are different. One is a little more strained, but because of my own experience, I try to push him to want something more with that father. But I realize that we all have our different experiences and our triggers are different. So yes, I've overcome mine, but that doesn't mean that he's ready or that it's going to be the same story for him. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I do have, I think I lived through trauma, and I've learned how to adapt to it, but I don't know that I'll ever experience really getting a true answer, if you will, right?
That closure.
Right. So it's helped me in a great sense of becoming a man and assuming the responsibilities of being a father. But at the same time, it causes me to really wonder, how can you bring something into the world, whether a relationship works or not, right? But because of your accountability, it comes with responsibility, right?
Yeah.
And so what still I wrestle with, still to this day, is how can you assume a position like that and you naturally get a title for something that only really you can hold yourself to as an individual, to be accountable for now the title that you bear. But what I'm perplexed about is, how can you put yourself in that position and intentionally not want to embrace the responsibility?
Yeah.
And I don't get that perspective, right? So it makes it very challenging for me to even be able to really deal with it, because at the same time, if you can never get that answer that you're looking for, then it's like I have to accept what it is, that the hand that I've been dealt at this point. And sometimes those major obstacles in life don't necessarily have to come from a distant person, but it can come from the very person that helped get you into this world. And you can never really get closure unless the person themselves actually examine themselves and examine, how is it, or the things that I've done, how has it affected someone? And a simple, I understand now, will go a long way with me. But like year after year after years, still trying to figure it out. And you never can get the other person to really embrace, like, bro, you are super dysfunctional in your mind. Like, seriously, you know? And now as a father, I had no other choice because I had to break that, which I really was never exposed to because I always had a father figure in my life for as long as I've known myself. So I was still covered in a sense, but it's still the challenge of, I know who you are. You're making a conscious decision not to embrace the responsibility. Why? What did I do to you? You know what I'm saying? So it challenges me still to this day, and she challenges me and says, well, you know, you need to make it right? And it's like, if I make it right, then I'm ultimately still gonna have to walk around broken. Because I never got the true solution.
Wow, that's deep.
That is deep.
That's deep.
That is very deep.
Wow.
And it gets deep because we realize in life you may never get the answers that you're looking for. And so for me, the way that I push him is because as I've grown and matured and learned and grown spiritually, and as you process your own triggers, you then have a level of grace for other people. Because if I have triggers, triggers and traumas, other people do too. So what grace, who am I to not extend the same grace to give him time and the space, however long that takes, to dig the way that I had to dig and deal, you know? So that's why, because I feel like we have a level of accountability still for how we choose to process things, so.
But we gotta take that same grace that we would give him, that he would give you, that we now have to put on our parents. Because they were just flawed individuals who made some terrible mistakes at some times. And becoming a father, becoming a mother does not mean that you have the answers or you even yourself know what to do. You don't, he may not know, or you know, none of our parents may not know the traumas that they've inflicted upon us. And it takes their own self-healing. So for me, it's like, I gotta deal with me, and I can't worry about your answers. I can't worry about your healing. I gotta worry about how this gonna fix me. Cause I don't really care if you get fixed. I mean, that's really, because now I'm trying not to inflict that same pain and trauma on my children. So I'm trying to unwrong all that shit you put on me, and now let's make this thing right. And I don't care if you right, cause my intent is not to get the parent right. It's to get my children right.
Break those generations.
So it sounds like essentially what you deal with impacts obviously how you move. One of the things we say, like, you know, kids who have boys who have absent fathers, they either gonna be just like them or nothing like them. You know what I mean? You won't either be the same dude, or there's gonna be something in you that say, you know what, I don't want anybody else to feel what I felt. You know what I mean? So, you know, for me, it's interesting. I have a real interesting kind of dynamic when it comes to trauma, right? So, reading through these is funny, man. I gotta tell the story, right? So, when we talked about being beat, when we talked about alcohol and stuff like that. So this story is hilarious. We actually, when things were a little more intact with my family and siblings and stuff, we joked about it. But when I was like 5, maybe, I got a beating for drinking a 6-pack. I ain't say I drunk it.
Oh, okay.
So, again, my father, he thrown back, right? So, I got woke up in the middle of the night. I was the youngest. I have an older brother and an older sister. And it seems like they went to the oldest first. No, I ain't drink it. Went to the middle. No, I ain't drink it. Then they came to me. I was like, what? I was lost. Like, and again, as a kid, when it's like, basically, you better say you did it. Yeah, I did it. Like, I got my ass whooped. You feel what I'm saying? And And again, like, you know, my mother, my brother, my sister laugh about it, and I'm like, yo, but like, who really drunk it though?
Right.
Did you find out?
My father probably drunk it. He didn't want to beat my ass for it, but he probably drunk it. I don't know. But
One of them older siblings.
right. But I got took down for it. You know what I mean? And so I was like 5, man. You know what I mean? So that, as it relates to that, but there are some things that took place in my life coming up that were traumatic, but and I say that I wore this shirt on purpose, not for the swoosh, but my kids got me this. I got daddy issues. Now, granted, so part of this is something that my wife will hear for the first time. Not so much that, again, I haven't spoken to my father in almost 7 years, and we had a good relationship growing up, when I was growing up, after, you know, all that, when I was a young teenager and, you know, young adult and all of that. But interestingly enough, that ain't what I'm talking about. My daddy issues are more in line with me being a father. And so, my daddy issues come because there are people who have been in my life, who have had access to my children, who have had a vested interest in making my life hell, and were able to utilize my children as tools to accomplish their goal. If that makes sense.
Yep.
And so I have 4 children biologically, and 2 other children that aren't biologically mine, but they mine. And so when I think about each one of my children, the trauma is that those individuals in those circumstances made it. I have 2 biological daughters, 2 biological sons, 2 stepdaughters. Those circumstances and those people made it impossible for me to raise and be who I need to be to my daughters. And that people have been able to utilize who I am. I think I'm a great goddamn guy. And spin everything positive and make it negative. And thus my girls have been able to look at me as a villain based off of things that have been imparted on them, right? So it's impossible to raise my girls. Both 17, 27, don't talk to me. Wait, that's a whole nother conversation. Made it very, very challenging to raise my oldest son. And it's insane because I was just telling you, I picked him up today and was having some conversations with him today on the ride to the house. And because the kid looked at me as Superman, and I believe there's still a lot of reverence there for me. But there has been a struggle with him blindly trusting me as a boy should his father, right? And even for my girls, a father who's been there day one, A1, never walked away, never left, always been there. You feel what I'm saying? And so that dynamic has been challenging. Like my boy, he's a soldier. You know, he's had his moments and his challenges with navigating, but for me, the biggest struggle with my son, who just turned 18, is that as a father, I can pinpoint things that I was not able to give my son as he's stepping into manhood.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying because he got to go out in this world. You know what I'm saying? And so the implications are different now, even with him maybe feeling a little more liberated to take what I got to give him. But the doubt, the questioning that was built from age 8 to 18 is not gonna just go away.
Mm-hmm.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's a struggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
My baby boy, I actually sometimes feel guilty for what I'm able to be to him. So having him, you know, knocking on the door of 40 when he was born, and being a different, you know, being in a different place, being in a different place financially, being in a different place maturity, experiences, all of that stuff, and having the right partner gave me the ability to be that father who don't care if you run around the house with no shoes on, don't care if you flip and you fall, because you're gonna fall. You know, almost seeing what he gets from me, it's like, man, my oldest son, some things he missing, right? My girls, they have been, because like I said, I'm a great goddamn guy. I'm hurt. But the things that have been done, people don't even realize how much it's gonna hurt them. Because they missing out on this.
Yeah.
You feel me? And so with my stepdaughters, it's very interesting, man, because I have been given the liberty to parent them in a way that I've never had for my biological kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so it feels great, but with every great feeling comes a knife in my heart at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know there's a kid there that's missing what I have to offer as a father, right? And I know that there's somebody who would look at what I'm doing as if I'm neglecting.
Mm-hmm.
But love is not like this. I can pour this out and it'll be empty. Love don't run out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something I used to say to my youngest girl all the time. I can love your stepsisters. I can love you. I can love my wife. I can love your brother. It doesn't run out. But when you're told that, when you come to mommy's house, them girls taking your place. The security of your daddy is never there. The trust in your daddy is never there. The ability to be vulnerable and allow him to be the protector is never there. And so as a man, yeah, I got daddy issues. I got daddy issues. And the fact that my daddy was my superhero. He taught me how to work. He worked 16 hours a day throughout high school. But then there's some trauma with that, thinking that he was just a hustler. But I found out a few years back, no, I got another little brother that I didn't know about. And he had some child support that he had to hustle to get.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was special, but I wasn't that special. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So it's some stuff there. And like you said, Jermaine, like the idea that the things that you go through, it causes you to either be the same or to go straight 180. Because who I thought I was supposed to be, I ain't have a clue. Life learned me, taught me real well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, I deal with it. And at the end of the day, owning it, accepting it, being able to kind of speak about it, that's liberating.
Right.
You know what I mean? I live with it every day. But at the same time, here's the thing, and I keep saying I'm a great dad, I'm a great guy, right? Getting to a place what? Being a great guy?
I mean, you are a great guy, but that's subjective.
No.
Because, you talk about kids being in other households or being exposed to other things or not being exposed to what you bring. But it's subjective. Because everybody's life experience and what somebody consider great is going to be different. And just because somebody don't benefit from you, even though they should because they're yours,
Well, that's
It's
kinda-
not saying
yeah.
that they wouldn't be exposed to something great or have
Well, yeah.
a great experience.
Well, no,
It's
I'm
just
not-
saying
I'm
that
not
they don't
saying-
get what they should get from the person they should get it from.
Right. So when you consider kind of what Jermaine spoke about, just the idea that the yearning that you have, right, when a person makes a decision to not be there, right? The irony of it, when there's a person who's there, and the person who they're there for has been trained to reject it. You know what I mean? That's ironic. It is weird. You know, but I think that for me, getting to a place where I recognize, like, yo, you did what you were supposed to do, and there's some things in life that you can control.
Yeah.
There's some things that you can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, for me,
There's more things that you can't.
yeah, it's definitely more things that you can. There's definitely more things that you can. And so it's crazy. So I'm gonna let us move. But what I said this to my son today when we were driving up. I said, you know, I wouldn't have had any problems if I was a piece of shit. I said, because if I was a piece of shit, and your mother would have like, yeah, great, get away from me. I'm glad you're gone. Less problems for me. But guess I'm a great goddamn guy. And I'm gonna keep saying that word. And you can
I mean, I'm not
you can no, I'm just
saying don't
messing
say
with
it.
you. I'm just messing with you. But you can qualify that however you want.
Well, I can qualify. I'm sorry. I'm gonna break it down real quick on this, based on this ACEs from what I just heard about everybody's shit, right? Based on these traumas, though, you pick somebody that you should have never been with in the first place, and picking that partner and having children with, all you did was add to this ACEs now for them.
Yeah, it's true.
That's it, because this ACEs
Yeah, no,
led to you,
exactly.
and now
Right.
you led
Right.
to that ACEs.
That was one of the
Yeah.
look,
I mean,
babe, that was one of the things.
we
in
can
the
drop the
relationship.
mic on that because
poor
you know,
partner,
there's nothing else
poor,
to talk about.
Poor partner choices, right?
Yeah, I mean, all of this leads to that. And you say your daddy issues come from your children, but no, your daddy issues really come from your dad
It come
because
from
you haven't
God.
spoke to him in 7 years. Ain't nothing normal about that either. So we just got too much of this just festering.
It's real though,
I
babe.
think something that sometimes we don't always really pay close attention to is how we evaluate time. And what I mean by that is we put our own expectations on time, right?
Yeah.
And just because I'm equipped to do a thing doesn't necessarily mean that the timing is my now time to perform,
I like
right?
that. I like that.
So with that being said, lots of times we're equipped to do things, but we do the things in the wrong time, right? And when we do things in the wrong time, it causes for us to have to deal with stuff that we necessarily did not have to deal with, but because of our actions and because we were equipped to do what it is that we did, then we have to face then the consequences that come with doing stuff
Out
out
of
of
your
time.
time.
So that's bars. That's a word. All that. So you talking about, and I'm gonna come to the minister real quick. You talking about that permissive will. When you talking about being outside of that will, that permissive will, there's consequences in there, right?
Right, absolutely. Because sometimes we cause ourselves
Pain.
Yeah, man.
trauma
Yeah.
because we do stuff
Yeah.
that we already know what the consequences can possibly be.
Yeah.
But we take that chance,
Yeah.
right? And the chance is what really equates and is a big factor in the overall journey of life, right? At the end of the day,
Yeah.
chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we take them. And sometimes we make out.
Yeah.
And other times,
We hit the ground.
you know,
But
Yeah, we crash
so
and burn.
to piggyback off of that, so those times when you are operating out of your time, right? sometimes our parents are operating out of their time. When your parent operate out of their time, what does that happen? Generational curses. All that stuff that comes with your lineage now that you've operated out, and now everybody behind you paying for it. So again, as we talk about what our parents couldn't give us or what they weren't able to give us, we got to give them those graces too.
Yeah.
That they were operating clearly out of their time, most of them, right? Because look what's happening. And then it leads us to now create it even further. And now we got their shit and we got our own, and then we just putting it down the line.
And I think that comes from the discipline of process that we just,
Process. I like that word.
you know, that we just don't want to embrace. Because
First of all,
the
we don't want
truth-
discipline or process.
Yeah, neither one of them.
We don't want neither one of
Let's be
those.
honest about that.
We don't want discipline or process.
that we throw that word around a lot, right? Discipline. But really, discipline it's the nucleus of our being. I mean, if we were really disciplined in all areas of our lives, we would have acquired so much peace and really understood what true peace really is. If we would really understand process, man, you know, and it's
Like process.
yeah. Process and discipline, man. Like it's discipline. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
You can't escape it. in life.
So I'm glad you said that. So what it says is, you're either going to be disciplined or you're going to be disciplined. You know what I mean? You're going to operate in discipline, or something's going to happen that's going to discipline you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Is you going to get on the front end or the back end? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great talking, y'all.
That's real. That's real.
Yeah.
That's real. So again, man, you know, trauma.
That
is
right
real.
there in itself just make everything that
Yeah.
happens to you like it was your own fault. Who you mad at?
Because-
Don't be
because-
mad at nobody else,
that
because
goes-
you know damn well you wasn't supposed to be doing that thing, and you should have sat your tail down.
And it goes right to what I said about being able to, what you can control and what you can't. So even in a situation where you don't have control, there's still something that you can.
Control. Yeah. Yeah.
And so one of the things that I heard in the class, we were talking about, I don't know, I think it was a domestic violence class, it was something like that. But just the idea that a person that doesn't have power has insight. And so, and the example was, well, of course we're gonna talk about drinking, right? So if I'm home, if I'm 10-year-old Johnny and I'm at home, and I know Daddy get home at 5 o'clock and he gonna have a drink, when he start drinking, I know I gotta get out the way. That's my insight, because he gonna start tripping, right? So when you don't have power, you have insight. And when you have power, you don't have to have insight, because you do what the hell you want,
Right.
which is, you know, the nature of the world, right? The nature of life. So,
But with that insight, the insight should lead that you should be working towards power. So Lord Johnny know that Daddy is drunk, come home, alcohol problem, but he also know the time is clicking, and I'll be 18. So I just gotta get out the way for a little while, and then I'll gain my power over my own life. Because as I listen to all this, it's saying that even in this ACEs, right, we all have some sort of trauma that's coming from this. But you said it, process and discipline. If you had the process and discipline, you would heal from these things before you moved on. Nobody comes out of these things trying to heal them.
well, and so here's the challenge.
We come out of them trying to bury them.
And so that's where the work comes in.
Yeah.
Because when you experience trauma, you're not gonna, in a moment of being triggered by a trauma, you're not gonna have a level head and say, you know what, let me go get some help. You're gonna revert to whatever your defense mechanism is in that time. Right. So an example.
But if you just wait, is all I'm saying. All I'm saying is the wait, the discipline. Is not to say that you would know that you need
Right.
these things. You may not know at the time.
Right, what I'm saying is the trauma, it essentially impairs the ability to be disciplined. Like you're not gonna have a level head. You know what I mean? So one example, when I worked in a residential facility, they talked about it was a young lady who had experienced sexual abuse, and it was ongoing, and she dissociated, and she went to Disney World in her mind. So anytime the abuse took place, she dissociated and she was in Disney World. Probably never had been to Disney World. And so imagine an adult that experienced that as a child, now trying to navigate a relationship, you know, and then, you know, in its most fundamental form, we're going to have conflict in our relationships. We're going to have, you know, there are going to be times where you're not pleased with me, and vice versa. And so, how do you now come to your partner who's had that level of trauma and say, "You messed up. I ain't pleased with you right now." What's the response going to be? You know, so it's a challenging place, man. It's a challenging place.
And it takes me back to what I was just talking about with the whole process and discipline part, right? To piggyback off of what you just said, I'll use a relationship as an example. For the ones of us that have been taught and been given a good example of how relationships work, you know, how they're created, how they're built upon, how they're sustained, right? And when it comes to the discipline part, lots of times with relationships, we skip steps.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
In the process.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
We lose the discipline to not stick to the process, right? So if we look at it from a relational standpoint, if it's a man and a woman, I'm just talking from that perspective right now, and we just meet each other, how much time did we put in between the beginning and us then becoming sexually active in the relationship, right?
Because that blurs things too.
So my thing with that is, if I skip steps in the process because I wasn't disciplined enough to go through the process of figuring out who are you? I want to learn who are you?
But here's the thing, I got to piggyback off of that though. But that same process that we take into learning who you are, have I put that same time in to learn who I am?
That's what I was coming with. That's what I was coming with right there.
Because again, we talk about teenage dating, we talk about having a boyfriend at 10. Have you learned, what have you done to discover you?
And you know,
so how could you discover somebody else when you don't even know who you are?
And what I'll say about that is interesting. At the point when Ebony and I met, I had gotten to a place where I had accepted the failure of a marriage and a divorce. You know, everybody think that they're right in the situation, but I accepted what part I played, what, you know, all of that, right? And gotten to a place where I focused on learning me. And so the time piece, when I met her, terrified me. Because I had made up in my mind that everything that she is, I wasn't getting married again until I got that. And if I didn't get it, I wasn't getting married. So when she showed up, I was like, no, this is crazy. You know what I mean? So I think, I was gonna say it, but knowing who the person is, but knowing you, taking that time, and again, time is, I ain't gonna say it's relative, but it's different for different people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's you know, it really depends on how you navigate and what, you know, what your process is, and that word, that's a great word.
Yeah,
What
that's
your
a great
process
word.
is individually in terms of navigating. So, and again, you see questions all the time about, well, how long should you date before you move in together? How long should you date before you get married? How long should you this and how long should you that? But if you with somebody for a year and all y'all do is sit in the house, watch TV, y'all don't got no real life going on, that could be the equivalent of 2 months for somebody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it really, it's, sometimes we look at quantity, but the quality also plays a part.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Because I think the time got to come with some real substance, though.
There you go.
You just can't let the time go. You got to be saying, hey, what are we doing? What are we...
Again,
It's intentionally dating, right? It's like, who are you? Like, what is our plan? And like, let's move down this line.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what you said, right? With really embracing who you are.
Yep.
Yeah.
What is it that I really want?
Yeah.
What am I equipped to handle?
Yeah.
You know, and then you have to process whether or not do I have unrealistic expectations based upon something
And so
That's a good
Jermaine,
one.
guess what?
Yeah.
So I'm
Jermaine
already
dropping
telling-
them jewels.
Well, he already said a couple things that I already got topics like that are already in the
I
clip.
listen to
Listen,
I follow you on social media.
so
studied
listen.
the
No,
process.
I'm talking about. I'm gonna be. Jermaine gonna get Dwayne text me. He wants us to come back home. Like that's gonna happen. I'm telling y'all now, it's gonna happen. So I might text y'all before y'all leave. But definitely, man. So let's. I want to wrap the trauma up, man. It's. This is a very, very important topic. I think people are reluctant to deal with it individually, but it's almost gonna be non-existent to talk about in the context of a relationship. You know what I mean? People don't want to talk about their relationships. So I appreciate y'all, man. It's and so we gonna end up. You know, I got another little caveat in there. Yeah, we know this was heavy. This was a real good one, a real deep one. But we gonna end off a new little tradition here. We gonna start. All right, subject on the socials, ladies. This is
Oh my
subject.
God.
The subject on the social,
We can talk
ladies.
about this all week.
Y'all accepting the drink or not?
From who?
You know, this was in
Some
social
random
media.
dude in
This
the
was in
bar.
social media recently. Is it should a married woman accept a drink from a man if you out? You accepting the drink or not?
I mean, first of all, people are crazy these days, and you don't know what the intention is behind all of that. And I have a whole family. So for me, I'm just not living for myself anymore. Maybe a few years ago, before I was even as mature as I am now in my marriage, maybe because you would think that it's innocent, especially if like we're just hanging out and someone wants to treat you to that. But today, 2024, it's an absolute no for me as a married woman.
It's a hard no for me too.
Yeah.
At any stage, because again, like you said, it's innocent. But hey, what if this dude that bought you a drink know your husband?
Mm-hmm.
Now they hanging out. And he's like, I bought your wife a drink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How does that look? Like,
Right.
shit, the boy
It's
accept the
messy.
drink.
Mm-hmm.
What you doing? Like,
Right.
So
Domino effect.
So I posed a question on the thread, and it was crickets. The question was, ladies, if your husband's at the bar and he buys a woman a drink, you okay with that? And your answer should be the same both ways.
Yeah, because I was going to say hell no for that one.
right, right. Not curse word.
You can actually say it that time.
Right. I was going to curse that time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No.
No, I'm with you.
I would have commented if I had have seen your thread.
Yeah, ain't nobody comment on that
I'll
one.
go back and
it was
start
cricket. No, this was on the one of those groups.
But you know, again, but that's still our perspective and
Yeah.
our vantage point, right?
Yeah.
And people just don't understand that you have the liberty to dictate and govern your relationship. I just feel like it should be anything within the rules of your home.
Yeah.
If your husband's okay with it, if you could accept that drink in front of your husband and he's fine, take that drink and drink it.
Yeah.
Mine ain't gonna be fine. So we gonna have to let that drink go.
Neither is mine.
And I ain't gonna be fine with him buying a drink either.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely not.
Right. Under any circumstances. I might get mad if he buy my sister or mother a drink if I ain't there. Cause why are you there with them and I ain't there?
Oh my.
Right. You didn't carry your ass home because I ain't there.
That's
This is what I look forward to.
this one right here is a nut.
I love it.
Oh my goodness.
So colorful. I love it.
Oh man.
She's so honest, man.
I mean, but that's what we just talked about. If you're not honest with yourself, then again, you get in a relationship, you're not honest with yourself, so how could you be fulfilled and happy?
Yes, yeah.
You don't even want to be with that person. That person don't even know who you
Right.
truly are.
Right.
Because you're not allowing yourself to even be comfortable and vulnerable enough to do it.
Yeah.
To be you.
Yeah.
That's real. That's
Right.
real. So this has been an awesome episode. I definitely appreciate you guys. I'm definitely gonna be reaching out to Jermaine, saying, look, when y'all coming back? Oh, next week? Cool. And we gonna get back at it. We got topics on topics, and you said a couple things that line up with a couple of the ones that we already got coming. And so until next time, man, I appreciate everybody checking us out. Thank you all for checking out Date Night with Coach.
See
See
you
you
at
at
date
date
night.
Good night.